Hello, everyone. Today we're looking at the December 2021 astrological chart for all the signs. This will be a reading for the collective. I'm Michelle with Old World Mystics, and I'm a tarot and astrology enthusiast. So, in the month of December, we're really taking off from really where we left off in November. The themes are continuing regarding seeking higher truth. I do feel like this month the chart is taking on more of a personal flavor, though, and also added to the idea of truth, I am picking up a lot of symbolism and concepts related to the desire for peace. And so those two things are going to sort of intertwine as we look at the total solar eclipse, the planets in Sagittarius and Capricorn, and the other planets as well. All right, now you can see I've done the chart again by hand because I want to take some notes as I go along. And I think it can even be some fun for you if you want to take some notes as well, if you have your own chart available. And you will simply match up the interpretations to the signs. Where do the signs fall on the cusps of the houses in your chart? And so that's how you can match up the interpretations. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started actually with this new moon. That is going to start us off because it's right at the beginning of the month in December, December 4th, at 12 degrees of Sagittarius. And of course, what's so interesting about this is it's also a total solar eclipse. All right, and so when we're looking at eclipses, primarily we are looking at change. Okay, so that'll be our first note, is that we are looking at change in life. So we want to look at our charts and see if we have anything close to this area, 12 degrees of Sagittarius. Are there planets in that area? Is there a personal point, such as your ascendant or the midheaven? The ascendant, of course, is on the cusp of the first house, and the midheaven on the cusp of the 10th. Another personal point would be right here, the cusp of the 7th, or the cusp of the 4th, here down at the bottom of your chart. Your signs will most likely be different, but we're just talking about this area of the chart. So our degrees close to 12 degrees of Sagittarius on any of these points are close to the chart. Now, the reason we want to look at that first is that if that's the case, this eclipse might be more dramatic for you. Even though this is a collective read, and so I'm really picking up messages for everybody, this can be, again, more impactful if it's hitting something in your chart. Now, picking up on November, here we are, we have all this Sagittarius energy coming in. And so I really feel this is about truth, and that there's a question that comes up for me, and it's, where does truth lie? Where does truth lie? We talked about that in November, but I'm seeing this more on a personal level. I'm also seeing us reaching higher levels of consciousness. All right. Let's see if I can spell that one right. Higher levels of consciousness in order to understand what the answer to this question might be. We're also talking about changes, though, okay? Changes. And so once we get to the heart of this question and we start finding answers, then I feel that this eclipse can be about making changes that align us more with truth. So let's take that note too. Changes that align. What changes do we need to make in order to be more in line with our truth? I don't feel like this is going to be simple. This is really deep soul level work. And so, in the process, while we're trying to do this, and if we find we're not really aligned, I think what occurs is we can sense really an inner conflict. And for some of us, I think this is already actually going on. There can be some way that we are feeling conflicted, like what is true for us deep inside isn't completely aligned with perhaps how our lives are set up at the moment. So this can be something that comes to light in the month of December. There might be an event that occurs that triggers this sort of thinking. We might also look across to Gemini. It's possible that this can also be a very impactful if there's something close to 12 degrees of Gemini. All right, now we're going to take a look at a square because I feel that it connects with this idea of how challenging this will be. And so let's go ahead and draw a line in. And it's going to be, we'll start with our lines. Let's see if I can keep the colors straight, okay? That would be a real feat. Okay, let's see. We're going to use red because we are looking at okay, so we're looking at a 90-degree angle here. I mean, technically, really, this will be more when Mercury and the Sun are closer to 20 degrees. So a little bit ahead there. Okay, let's take some notes on that. So we are looking at the Sun and Mercury in Sagittarius, square Neptune in Pisces. There's our mutable square. Now, because we're looking at this square occurring, Neptune is just kind of sitting here very slowly. Neptune moves very, very slowly, but we have the Sun and Mercury moving much more quickly, right? Moving in this direction through the heavens. All right, so when this contact occurs around 20 degrees, it could actually start at the beginning of the month. The planets are really close enough. But we see that there's a challenge. I do feel this is talking about a personal conflict that needs to be resolved. That can be something that is on the mind and comes about really in conjunction with this eclipse. I feel that they're very closely connected. And for some of us, we might even call this like a spiritual challenge. I think it's really on a quite a deep soul level. So where is Sagittarius in the chart, and also where is Neptune where is Pisces, we might say, where is Pisces in your chart? Because that's where you'll have transiting Neptune. There's something going on there, something brewing in that area. I also feel the challenge has to do with, I'm going to take this note, broadening, okay, bringing in the idea of Sagittarius and expansion, broadening awareness, perspective, And for some, it's going to be knowledge. So these two things are really very closely connected, I feel, in the chart. They're working together. This is happening in the beginning of the month. And that leads us into the other really very interesting situation that's occurring also at the beginning of the month. And this has to do with the Sun and Mercury and Venus in Capricorn. It's adding another layer. You'll notice that at 0 degrees of Capricorn this is the solstice point. All right, this is the solstice point. It doesn't matter if there are any planets there or not, or actually we could make a note here that the winter solstice is coming up. Let's make a note about that. The winter solstice will be 12/21, and it's at 0 degrees of Capricorn. But whether or not there's something there, the point is always there in space, 0 degrees of Capricorn. Now you'll notice that the Sun and Mercury are 20 degrees away from this point at the beginning of the month. Venus is also 20 degrees away. So they are both, these planets are equidistant, we would say, equidistant from the solstice point. That's called antitia, and it works like a conjunction. Very interesting to see. So let's make a note about that one right here at the top. We'll put the Sun and Mercury, and we'll say they are in Tisha, Venus, and vice versa. Venus, Antisha, Sun, and Mercury. This is just like a conjunction. Everything is working together. Now, when we think of Capricorn, we think of goals, ambitions, things that we want in life. And when we think of Venus, we are thinking about peace and harmony. We think about the heart. With Mercury, we think about the mind. And with the Sun, really our very soul. So I feel that this really beautiful configuration here is talking about a strong desire for peace. This can be in our homes, in our relationships, in our workplace. It can be something that we actually want for the world at large even. We can see it that way. Peace is the goal. Peace is the goal. For ourselves and for those around us, we feel this heart, mind, and soul. If we look at some of the things that are occurring in the world today, already even just like in November, as I am putting this reading together, I can see so clearly how peace is needed in certain areas of the world. On a very deep, heartfelt level, I can see this. In order for people to prosper and live happier, more productive lives. And so this is something that we can tap into for ourselves as well. Now, this is really all occurring in the beginning of the month, okay? So beginning of the month, we're seeing all of this going on in the chart. I am going to jump ahead a little bit now to the end of the month as we sort of develop this overall theme. And we are going to take a look at what happens when Mercury moves up towards Pluto. Okay, let's take a note here. Mercury, Venus, and Pluto conjunct in Capricorn. So by the end of the month, we have Mercury. We'll just draw a little arrow in here to show the movement, okay? Mercury moves up to 26 degrees of Pluto right here. Very tight conjunction. Venus will move to 23 degrees. And so these three planets are really compacted right here, blending together. Of course, Pluto has been sitting here for a while in your chart, wherever 25 degrees of Capricorn is, because Pluto moves so slowly. What can happen, though, is because Mercury is moving so much faster, and even Venus now is getting closer, this potentially can be a trigger point for some of us. So let's put that note in. It's like a trigger point, and it's at 25 degrees of Capricorn. So the question is, at this point, looking at your natal chart, do you have anything at 25 degrees of Capricorn? Are there planets there? Are there personal points there? Are the nodes there? It's possible that something eventful will happen towards the end of December. And looking at the planets and the signs, I feel that a transformation is involved. Again, a lot of change being pictured in this chart with the eclipse and everything, and now the potential for this trigger to occur. Because we're looking at Capricorn, I think we're talking about goals, ambition, and priorities. So, goals, ambitions, and priorities. Where is Capricorn in your natal chart? Because this can tell you something about where perhaps you will have a shift or a change in goals, ambitions, and priorities. I feel that this connects with the idea about a higher level of truth, being true to the self, and alignment. It all connects together. Now, there's something else interesting happening here with this particular area and these planets, and it has to do with Saturn and Venus. So that will be our next note. There's actually a very interesting and strong relationship between these two planets. Okay, let's make a note. Let's put Saturn in Aquarius, and let's put Venus in Capricorn. Now, there isn't an aspect there yet, but there will be a conjunction at the end of March, beginning of April 2022. Still, I'm looking ahead, and I'm wondering, especially because there isn't an aspect yet, if there isn't something kind of brewing, almost I would say below the consciousness, something that we're not aware of. And then I want to ask what that might be. First of all, what we want to take a look at is that Saturn rules both of these signs, Aquarius and Capricorn. And so Venus being in Capricorn is supported by Saturn. Saturn is taking care of Venus while Venus is in Saturn's house. At the same time, Saturn is exalted while in Libra, the sign of Libra, which is the house of Venus. And so I see a close relationship there. These planets work well together. They aren't quite together yet, though. Their conjunction hasn't happened. So, what don't we know about this situation and what might unfold by the time we get to the end of March and beginning of April? I feel what this is saying, and we're thinking about the chart as a whole, is that getting the goals right is just the first step. So let's take that note down. Getting goals right. This is the first step. Now, we might put it another way, and that would be that it's not enough just to make plans. Making plans isn't going to be enough. They will have to be executed. And with Saturn involved, I believe this is going to require some discipline and some perseverance. I like this message. It's telling me don't give up on your heartfelt dreams, goals, and projects. For some of us, because Aquarius involved, I think it's going to require stepping out of your comfort zone. And I believe we talked about this a little bit in November, so it's coming up again. All right, stepping out of the comfort zone. And that actually leads us right into this long-term square. All right, so that's going to be the next thing. Let's take a look at that. This long-term square. Let's draw another line for fun. Okay. Let's have some fun with that while we're doing this. Okay, and we're looking at Saturn and Uranus here. Okay, so there we go. We're looking at the challenges. And let's take another note, okay? And as I'm doing this, as I'm taking notes, also it gives us a chance to just kind of wrap our heads around what we're looking at. So it's Saturn in Aquarius, right? In rulership, squaring Uranus in Taurus. Now, the modern planets don't traditionally have rulership, but modern astrologers would look at that as in fall. So some of the structures that are coming, breaking apart at this time are quite difficult. But for us personally, and what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at us building something, building a new life that is more in line with our truth. Potentially having a transformation regarding our goals and what's important in life. We also know that this is going to require some discipline, although this may not come in to light until the spring. Now we may be more in the phase of making plans and figuring this out. But meanwhile, we have the square going on. And so this is telling me that what we build will be tested. Saturn is all about building, and Uranus is about breaking things apart. Now, not willy-nilly necessarily, although it can seem like that because with Uranus, things are very sudden. But with Uranus, things break apart because they don't have the strength to last, or because it is needed in order to recycle something in life. And so let's take this note. I think this is important. What we build is tested. I think a question that we can think about as we're developing these new plans is that we can expect some trial and error. We can expect some experimentation. This again came up in November, the idea of experimentation. It's okay. It's part of the process of building something long lasting and strong for life. I think a question we can ask is it useful what we are building? And to whom? To whom is it useful? This clearly coming through with the Aquarius energy. Also with Taurus, is it useful to ourselves? So is it useful to ourselves and to others? All right, now from here, let's continue on. We're going to move on. Now we are in the latter part of the month. And I'm going to move on to Jupiter now. Okay, Jupiter will be moving into Pisces. So let's draw that little arrow in too, just to remind us. This is a really big event. Okay, right here. This is a big event. Let's make a note right here. This is a change of sign. Jupiter at 0 degrees of Pisces, and this will be, I'm going to put by 12/30/21. I mean, it may be very late on the 29th, but by the 30th. Okay, so Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces. Neptune is the modern ruler, and so we are looking at both rulers for Pisces in their domicile, in a power of strength, where they feel good, where they can operate effectively. I feel that this is very important moving into the new year as well. I think there's going to be a really strong emphasis on spirituality now. Partially, we might say that's because that's a big interest of mine. Obviously, if you come to my readings or even as an astrology or a tarot reading, we know that we're interested in spiritual topics, but it's in the chart as well. I'm not necessarily talking about the 12th house here. It looks like that. I'm talking about these planets in this sign. We might also say this can be a very powerful time for people to understand what's going to be happening in the future. For those of you that are gifted psychically, or your intuition is very strong, this will be really off the charts here for some people. If you're sensitive, it may be even more so. This can be for actually the entire year. I think also, though, we're going to see an uptick in compassion. This is also, I'm talking about over the course of really the whole year. Generosity. All of these beautiful human qualities. Let's add enlightenment. This is just beautiful news for the beginning of the year. The strong emphasis on peace at the beginning of December. And then this, I want to say, almost just spiritual maturity even occurring for the beginning of the year and going throughout the entire year. A note about Jupiter is that from December through May, Jupiter will move through this entire sign. So just moving direct very quickly. Then actually will move all the way up into the early degrees of Aries. Then it will go retrograde back. In November, it will go direct again and then head for Aries. So there's kind of a process there. Takes about a year. All right, we're going to just piggyback on that and draw one more line. And this is a trine. Okay, so let's take a look at the trine. The water trine, which is really close to exact here at the beginning of the month between Mars and Neptune. We talked about that in November as well. But this really caught my eye, I want to say, when I was thinking about Jupiter, because I'm looking at this almost like a spiritual vitamin B12 shot. That's what I'm looking like. It's like a boost of spiritual energy that comes in at the beginning of December, and it sets us up, I believe, and primes us for this beautiful event of Jupiter coming into Pisces. Let's make a note here, okay, for our notes for the month. We may want to refer back to this. I know I do, so I'm making the notes for myself too. We have Mars in Scorpio, trining Neptune in Pisces, and here we have our boost of spiritual energy. Beautiful month for meditation, prayer, being in nature or close to a body of water, and to just center the self and perhaps even think about some of these other developments that might be occurring in life. So as we look at this on a whole, I'm going to say that the theme that is coming through is about being true to the self. Let's note that here, actually. Let's note that right here. Being true to self. I think this comes first. It is like a first step that occurs in December. And once this happens, it's so closely entwined with the desire for peace. But when we are true to ourselves, we can then spread that peace and harmony to others as a result. So let's write that down. Spreading peace and harmony as a result. All right, that's our reading for December 2021. I'm looking forward to seeing how these developments might play out in my own chart, and I hope you have some fun with it too. Thank you so much for being here as always. It's a pleasure and a privilege to do these readings for you and with you, and I'll see you next time.